I don't even know how to begin this. Maybe I should just warn you before I start, because if you keep listening, you're not going to forget this. You'll check your mirrors more carefully tonight, maybe even cover them. And if you're unlucky enough, maybe you'll see her too. But I can't hold this in anymore. I have to tell someone what happened. This isn't a story. It isn't a campfire tale. This is my life and my nightmare. It started about a month ago with something so small, so insignificant, that I thought I was just tired or imagining things. But the truth is, what I saw was the first crack in the glass. Literally. I was brushing my teeth late one night, leaning over the sink, staring at myself in the bathroom mirror. The house was quiet, too quiet, now that I think about it. My roommates were out, and even the street outside seemed still. And that's when it happened. I spat out the toothpaste, wiped my mouth, and looked back up, and she smiled first. My reflection. It sounds crazy, right? Impossible. But that's exactly what I saw. For just a second, less than a second, her lips curled upward into the faintest smile before mine even moved. My toothbrush fell into the sink, clattering loudly in the silence. I froze, staring at the glass. My reflection was normal again. Dead, tired eyes, pale skin, messy hair. Nothing wrong, nothing different. I told myself it was a trick of the eyes. I'd been staring too long, spacing out, maybe my brain glitched. It happens, so I shrugged it off. Biggest mistake of my life. The next night, I caught her again. This time, I was turning away from the mirror, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw my reflection linger just half a second too long, still facing me when my head had already moved. It felt like my stomach dropped out of me. I spun back around, but there I was again, looking normal, mimicking me perfectly. I laughed nervously, told myself I was stressed, needed sleep. I was in the middle of exams, working part-time too. Of course my mind was playing tricks, but deep down I knew something was wrong, because the reflection in that glass, it wasn't me, not really. A few nights later, it escalated. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of scratching. At first, I thought it was a mouse or maybe a branch against the window, but it wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from the mirror, the tall, old-standing mirror I kept in the corner of my bedroom. The scratching was faint but steady, like fingernails dragging across glass. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, staring into the dark corner, and that's when I saw it. A handprint pressed against the inside of the mirror. Not mine. I swear it wasn't mine. The palm was too small, the fingers too long, the nails black and sharp. And as I stared, it slowly dragged downward, leaving a faint smear across the glass. I couldn't breathe. My chest was tight, my skin crawling. But when I finally managed to flick on the light, it was gone. The mirror was clean, empty, but I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I tried to ignore it, tried to pretend I was just hallucinating from exhaustion. But the mirror, she didn't let me ignore her. One night, my roommate Kevin came home late. He was drunk, stumbling, laughing, and he noticed a mirror in my room. "Dude, this thing's creepy," he slurred, walking up to it. "Why does it look like it's wet?" I froze. "Don't touch it," I whispered. But of course he didn't listen. He pressed his palm flat against the glass and grinned at his own reflection. "Hey man," he joked, "your girlfriend lives in here or something." That's when it happened. His reflection didn't smile back. It twitched. Its head jerked slightly, its grin stretching unnaturally wide, too wide, and then its hand slammed against the glass from the inside. Kevin screamed and stumbled backward, tripping over my bed frame, crashing to floor. I swear to God, I saw blood splatter across the mirror from the inside. When I rushed to help him up, he was pale, shaking. Did you see that?" he gasped. "Tell me you saw that." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. We didn't talk about it after that night. He started avoiding my room. Sometimes, I'd catch him looking at me strangely, like he wasn't sure if I was me anymore. And honestly, I wasn't sure either. It got worse. The scratching became nightly, sometimes soft, sometimes violent, like claws raking furiously at the glass. I started covering the mirror with blankets, but every morning, the blanket would be on the floor, the glass bare again. I stopped looking at it, until one night when the smell hit me. Blood, thick, metallic, suffocating. I gagged and turned toward the mirror, and my heart nearly stopped. The inside of the glass was streaked red, handprints smeared everywhere. Faces pressed against it, mouths wide in silent screams, their eyes dark pits dripping black liquid. And in the center, her, the girl, pale as death, long matted hair, eyes that were too wide, too bright. And that smile, God, that smile. She raised a hand, slowly curling one finger toward me, beckoning. And then, clear as day, I heard it, her voice, low, soft, whispering, "Let me out." A few nights later, I woke to a sound that I would never forget. Dripping. Slow, steady, wet dripping. At first, I thought it was a leak. Maybe the ceiling or the bathroom faucet. But when I sat up, I realized the sound was coming from the corner, from the mirror. Even in the dark, I could see the surface glistening. Something thick and what slid down the inside of the glass, running in crimson trails. Blood. It pooled at the bottom edge of the frame, too much of it, until it began spilling over onto my floor. Thick drops pattered against the wood. I gagged, choking on the smell of iron filling the air. My feet slipped when I tried to get out of bed, landing in something warm and sticky. Blood was spreading across my bedroom floor. I staggered back, nearly slipping again, and that's when I saw them. Hands, pressing against the other side of the mirror. Dozens of them. Palms, fingers, nails, smearing bloody trails across the glass, as if clawing to get through. And then faces appeared. One, then another, then dozens. They weren't mine. They weren't Kevin's. They weren't anybody I recognized. But their mouths open and close in silent screams, eyes hollow, skin shredded. And in the middle of them all, her, the girl, her face pressed close to the glass, so close her teeth scraped against it when she grinned. That grin, it split her face almost in half. "Come closer," she whispered. I don't remember running. I just remember suddenly being outside, barefoot on the lawn, the cold night air burning my skin, blood still wet on my legs. The next morning, the room was clean. The floor is spotless. The mirror is clear. No blood. No bodies. Nothing. If it wasn't for the faint, sharp smell of iron still lingering in the air, I would have thought I dreamed it. But dreams don't leave stains. And mine had. Kevin noticed. "You look like hell, man," he said one afternoon, catching me in the kitchen. "You haven't slept in days, have you?" I wanted to tell him everything. Wanted to beg him to help me get rid of the mirror, to burn it, smash it, anything. But I didn't, because when I looked at him, I saw something in his eyes. Fear. He already knew. That night, I heard him scream. I bolted out of bed, rushing to his room. The door was locked, but I could hear him inside, thrashing, shouting, "Get away! Get away from me!" I slammed my shoulder against the door until it splintered open, and I wished to God I hadn't, because Kevin wasn't alone in that room. The mirror was there. It's not my mirror, not the standing one in my room, but his closet mirror, and she was inside it. Her hands burst through the glass, wrapping around his chest, her nails digging deep into his skin. His shirt was soaked, blood pouring down his torso as he screamed. I rushed forward, but the glass rippled like water, pulling him in, dragging him toward the surface. No! I grabbed his arm, pulling with everything I had, but she was stronger. Kevin's face twisted in agony as his chest split open. Blood sprang across the room, staining the walls. His body convulsed, and then with a sickening snap, he was gone, dragged into the mirror. The glass shivered, the ripples fading, leaving only my reflection staring back at me. But there was blood on the glass. My reflection reached up and licked it. I couldn't stay there. I ran, packed whatever I could fit into a bag, left the rest. But when I got to my car, I froze. The rear view mirror. She was there, her face, smiling back at me from the glass, blood dripping from her teeth. I screamed and smashed it with my fist, shards slicing my knuckles. But in every shard, she was still smiling. I didn't go back to that house. I couldn't, but it didn't matter, because she followed me. Every mirror I passed and every place I went, she was there, in bathrooms, in store windows, even in puddles on the street at night, always smiling, always watching. Sometimes when I blinked, she would be closer, and sometimes I'd see them too, the bodies, piled behind her in the dark, bloated, bloody, rotting. I don't know how they got there. I don't want to know, but I think I'm next. The worst was Halloween night. I've been staying in a cheap motel, the kind with buzzing neon signs and thin walls. I thought maybe the place was dirty enough, forgotten enough, that she couldn't reach me here. But I was wrong. That night, the scratch started again. At first, it came from the bathroom mirror, then the old TV screen, then the small cracked mirror above the dresser. All of them scratching at the same time. And then came the whispers, soft, layered, dozens of voices speaking over each other, all of them murmuring my name. I sat frozen on the bed, clutching the blanket, my chest heaving. Then silence, and then the bathroom door creaked open. The mirror inside glowed faintly red, like the light was bleeding, and she stepped out. That night, Halloween night, I should have left. I should have gotten in the car and driven until there were no mirrors, no glass, nothing reflective in sight. But I froze, because when she stepped out of the mirror, I realized it was already too late. She came through the glass like smoke at first, seeping out in threads of black, her body bending and twisting in ways no body should. Her pale skin dripped like wax, reforming, snapping into place as bones cracked and joints locked. And then she stood there in the bathroom doorway, her feet left wet and crimson prints on the motel carpet. Her hair hung down in clumps, dripping thick black sludge. Her arms were too long, her fingers sharp, and her mouth was split into that grin that didn't belong to anything human. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She tilted her head at me, her eyes wide, twitching, bright like shards of broken glass. And then she laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even more than a whisper, but it filled the room, vibrating through my bones, a laugh that wasn't hers alone. Dozens of voices joined in, The voices of the faces I'd seen behind the glass. Kevin's voice, my mother's voice, people I didn't even know, all of them laughing through her mouth. I scrambled off the bed, my legs slipping in the sticky carpet. I tried to get to the door, but when I grabbed the handle, it was gone, just smooth wall. I staggered back, gasping. The room wasn't the same anymore. The walls stretched too tall, too far, peeling and bleeding. The carpet squelched beneath my feet, like it was soaked through with blood. The air stank of iron and rot. I wasn't in the motel anymore. I was in her world. I turned and saw them. Bodies. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, hanging from the ceiling by their throats. Their skin pale, their eyes hollow, their mouths wide. Blood dripped from their wounds, raining down, soaking my clothes, splattering across my face. I gagged, choking, stumbling backwards, but I slipped in the blood, hitting the ground hard. And when I looked up, she was crouched over me, her grin inches from my face. Her hair brushed my skin and was sticky with blood. She leaned down, her voice breaking into 1,000 whispers all at once. "You smile now." Her fingers wrapped around my throat, squeezing, nails piercing my skin. My vision blurred, spots dancing, my chest heaving for breath. And then she slammed me backwards into the mirror. But instead of breaking, the glass rippled, swallowing me halfway. My reflection stared back at me, but it wasn't right. It was smiling. Even as I clawed at the glass, gasping for air, bleeding from her nails, my reflection only smiled. And behind it, I saw them again. The bodies. Kevin, my mother, neighbors, strangers, all floating in the dark behind the glass, their mouths whispering, 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 "Help me, help me, help me." Hands shot out from the darkness, pale and cold, wrapping around my arms, my legs, pulling me deeper into the mirror. I screamed until my throat tore. Blood sprayed across the glass, and my reflection licked it. Somehow I broke free. I don't know how. 1 second, I was being pulled into the darkness. The next, I was sprawled on a motel floor, the glass unbroken, the room normal again. But it wasn't normal, because when I looked at the mirror, she was still there. I'm not behind the glass this time. Standing in the reflection of the bathroom doorway, her head tilted, that impossible grin wide. And when I blinked, she was gone. I didn't sleep that night, didn't even sit down. I stood there in the center of the room, staring at every reflective surface, waiting for her to come back. And as the hours dragged by, the truth sank in. She wasn't trapped anymore. She could come through whenever she wanted. The mirrors weren't the doorway anymore. They were just the warning. And that's when I realized the worst part. It wasn't about the mirrors. It was about me. She didn't want to kill me. She wanted to take me, to replace me. That night, as the motel clock ticked closer to 3 a.m., I looked up and caught my reflection smiling. Before I did, you don't understand what true horror is until you realize your own face is hunting you. I thought she was gone. I thought maybe if I left the motel before dawn, if I drove fast enough, far enough, I could shake her off. But I was wrong, because when something like her chooses you, there's no leaving. I didn't check out. I didn't care about my bag. I just ran out of the motel into the cold night, fumbling with my car keys. My hand was shaking so hard I dropped them twice. When I finally got inside and slammed the door shut, I caught sight of myself in the rearview mirror, and my reflection smiled. My blood turned to ice. I jerked the mirror downward, refusing to look. But no matter where I looked, the windshield, the dark windows of other cars, the gloss of the dashboard, she was there, always smiling. Sometimes her mouth opened wider than humanly possible, stretching to her ears. Sometimes she leaned closer, her breath fogging the glass. And sometimes she whispered, "Drive faster, drive faster, drive faster." I pressed the gas until the needle nearly broke. My eyes burned from staying open, refusing to blink, terrified that if I closed them even for a second, I'd wake up somewhere else, somewhere inside. But no matter how fast I drove, no matter how many miles disappeared behind me, I couldn't escape because the mirrors followed. Street signs, glass windows, puddles on the asphalt. Every reflective surface I passed caught her face, her grin. And the worst part? The farther I drove, the more people I saw in those reflections. Dead people, dozens of them, hundreds, their empty eyes fixed on me, their blood dripping down invisible walls of glass. They weren't watching. They were waiting. By sunrise, I finally couldn't keep my eyes open. I pulled into an empty gas station, breathing hard, my body trembling. When I got out of the car, I thought I was safe. No mirrors outside, no glass, just concrete and gravel. But then I saw it, a pool of water stretching across the lot from last night's rain. And in that water, she was standing, not moving, not breathing, just grinning. But the reflection wasn't of the lot. It was of the motel room. Behind her, I could see the peeling wallpaper, the bed covered in blood, the body swaying from the ceiling. It was an invitation, or a warning. I ran back inside my car and drove again. I didn't even know where. Towns blurred by. Highways bled into back roads. Time became meaningless. The only constant was her, always there, always smiling, and always waiting for me to slip. I lasted 3 more nights before I broke. On the 4th night, I was staying in another cheap motel, lights flickering, air thick with mold. I had taped over every mirror, every piece of glass, even the black screen of the TV. But sometime around 2:55 a.m., I heard the whisper, "It's time." The tape began to peel, slowly, like invisible fingers were pulling it away. I backed into the corner of the room, clutching the Bible I'd found in the nightstand. I don't know why. Maybe I thought it would protect me. But then the bathroom door creaked open, and I realized I had forgotten the mirror above the sink. She stepped out, no longer dripping, no longer twisted. This time, she looked perfect, her hair neatly brushed, her skin as pale but flawless, her eyes wide, shimmering, and her grin smaller now, softer, almost human. She reached out her hand to me. "It's better inside," she whispered. And when I shook my head, when I tried to scream, she tilted her head. The way I do when I don't understand something. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just copying my smile anymore. She was becoming me. The walls began to ripple. Blood seeped through the carpet again. The bodies appeared above me, swaying, dripping. The room twisted, stretching into that endless red darkness. I stumbled backwards, but there was no backwards, only glass. And in that glass, I saw myself, but not me, not the broken, terrified man I was in that moment. I saw her, wearing my face, my clothes, my eyes, and she was smiling at me. I lunged forward, slamming my fist into the mirror, tried to break it. but it wouldn't break. My hands bled, skin tearing, bones cracking, and still the glass only rippled, mocking me. And then the reflection spoke. You're already inside. I froze, because when I looked down, I wasn't in the motel anymore. I was in the mirror, behind the glass, and outside, in the real world, she was me. She blinked. She breathed. She ran her bloody fingers through her hair, fixing it like nothing had happened. And then she turned, walked to the door, and left, wearing my body, living my life, while I stayed here. I'm not alone, though. There are hundreds of us, thousands, all trapped in this endless darkness, pressed against a glass, screaming, begging. But no one hears us, because she wears our smiles. She wears our voices, and she's already with you. If you're listening to this, if you've made it to the end, I need you to do one thing. Check the mirror right now. Look closely, and if your reflection smiles before you do, run, because she's already chosen you.